The resistance movement in Nigeria does not seem to be making much progress over the years. This is despite the fact that this resistance is comprised of some of the most active youth populations in the country, people who have the resources and political potential to put the country on shutdown for even months. And not only this thriving youth population, you also have this general sentiment in the country, and which is that the current APC government has to step down. So there is obviously a political potential for a change. There is the mass youth population who wants to see the change, and then there's the general sentiment in the country that this change has to happen. But despite these potentials in Nigeria for a revolution or a rebellion, there seems to be nothing happening in the country. Now, this begs the question, why is it that despite this potential, the APC government seems to be getting more powerful and even consolidating power, where now we have over 21 states now APC out of 36 states of the federation, which is not the case 3 to 4 years ago. So the one way to explain why this is happening is that we need to recognize that despite the fact that there's a very big resistance going behind the scene, the voices are not so unified and they are factionalized. One part of this resistance movement is the obedience movement. And this is the part of people who believe so much in democracy. They religiously don't see anything wrong with democracy, and they genuinely believe that the only way to build a truly industrialized African nation like Nigeria is via democracy. Now, I'm not going to dismiss whatever philosophy this group subscribe to, but I'm just going to examine why, despite their own strong faith, they have been unable to effect a change in Nigeria. Our problem is this: is that this obedience movement that believes in democracy actually believe in the fact that one man, being the Peter Obi or a benevolent leader, can come to power and change things. Now, this person coming to power to change things, this group of resistance overlook the fact that we have institutions in Nigeria, such as the judiciary. You also have the INEC, and then you also have the our police and army. So these institutions, despite the fact that these movements have been able to generate significant votes for this their leader, these institutions have been a roadblock to them coming to power. So the believers of democracy have to understand that Nigeria is not just a singular person system whereby one man is doing it all. There are also institutions in power, and these institutions have to be attended to. You agree that these institutions are the reason why Peter Obi did not come to power in Nigeria after the last election. Yet, you are not doing anything at all to correct this institutional collapse. You are not even staging a mass uprising against these institutions, and neither are you infiltrating these institutions. So what I would suggest to this group of movements is that you need to at least infiltrate these institutions or stage a mass uprising to dismantle these institutions. Because so long as they are in power, even if you happen to put your best person in power, there is a high chance that nothing in Nigeria may really change for good. If you believe in democracy, actively participate in democracy. Do not just sit down and wait for one man to use his money to print campaign banners, run for primaries, run for election, win, and then give you freedom on a platter. Life does not work that way. There's no society where such changes has happened. It happened in Russia, where Putin came to power to save the country from the corrupt oligarchs that has been taking Russia's wealth and moving to the West. But the reason why Russia case is a bit different from ours is that in Russia, they already had a revolution. They already had a strong ideology in the country. There's already a Russian national pride. In fact, it's only needed a president to fix. In our case, it's not the same. We didn't have such things. So that is why one man coming to power is actually unlikely. But even if the case whereby one man coming to power is unlikely, it has to be a one man coming to power institutionally. So each obedience movement in each state of the federation should infiltrate the democracy you genuinely believe in. not only the local government chairman, the state governors and senate has to have obedience, not just thinking that one man being the president is going to do the job. So obedient movement, don't just sit at home. Don't just sit in your house, just be in your estate that is fenced, operating your phones, and just come on and say, "Oh, Peter Obi, come to power." No, go out and buy these political forms or membership. Either start your party or buy form from an existing party. Participate in everything. Try to get more youth population in power. If you have a obedient movement, being the local government chairman, being the state governor, being a senator, and then being the president, this is easier for change to happen. Because we have seen that even the case of Goodluck Jonathan, where Goodluck Jonathan genuinely had genuine intentions to fix Nigeria, yet he was unable to fix Nigeria because even when he tried to educate the Amajiri in the north, what happened when he tried to educate them? The state governors there who did not subscribe to it protested against it heavily. He tried to do some reforms in Nigeria, but there are many protests because there is institutions. And if Goodluck Jonathan could not fix it, there's no way you are expecting Peter Obi to do more. Even if Peter Obi can do something, Nigeria has to change for good, not just that 2 years, 3 years, and everything collapse again. So because if you don't build this political structure, if you don't build a political structure whereby you have a political party, whereby the ideology of that party, the whole manifesto governing that party is that Nigeria has to be sovereign and the resources in Nigeria has to be for the good of Nigerians. If we don't have this governing framework, if one man comes to power, obviously the man may try to, but there are other opposing institutions and party in the country that will stop him from doing his best. So this is the problem with this part of democratic resistance. Now, there's other part of resistance that they work with governance. This one is more like they are not subscribed to any party. They try to, whatever party is in power, they try to bring upon institutional change. Let's say, for example, there is an APC government is in power, yet they are human rights activists, they are lawyers, they are doctors, some people who donate their money to try to change uh, some things in Nigeria, like this NYSC reform was not done by people in APC government solely. There are genuine Nigerians who are not part of any political party who try to reform the NYSC. Yes. So they also there are some Nigerians who are genuinely good whenever they see a case of police brutality, whenever they see a case of harassment from the police, or whenever they see a case of kidnapping, they try to use their resources to fight these state institutions. So this group of people obviously have powerful voices and platforms on the internet as well. And I don't want to mention names here. And they try to contribute in their only two ways for the good of the country. Yes, the problem with this is that it is going to be a cycle of doom. You cannot fix Nigeria from simply giving scholarship to one student to go and study in UK, going to one person who is being brutalized and try to help them with your power, because there's only little you can do. There's only little you can do, and you can only help one person at a time, no matter how passionate you are. So these people who are mainly fence sitters and who try to push for institutional change should try to find a place to hang upon. Either hang on with the obedience movement or hang on with the next group of people I'm going to analyze here, because it is definitely true that you are doing the right thing and you are trying your best for your country, but you are going to a cycle of doom that will forever repeat itself. Because as long as the state institutions are corrupt, there will always be people who are in prison for no reason. There will always be victims of kidnapping. There will always be people who are out of school. So long as these problems you go out to solve, so long as the state government is either too weak or not interested in fixing Nigeria, so long as this exists, there is no way that all of this will not stop. And there's no way that all these things will stop. So whatever you are doing, you should know that if you want everlasting peace for Nigeria, you should find yourself a political movement to be part of. You can't sit on the fence and try to be a benevolent Nigerian. Then the other group are the people who are Pan-Africanists. So generally, it's difficult to group all of these people together because I consider myself part of this movement. These are people who try to examine Nigerian institutions and not just the local politicians. Like, general sentiment is that the Nigerian politicians are not just doing all of this because they are grossly incompetent. And of course, you cannot dismiss all of Tinubu's policies now as matter of incompetence. Yes. In fact, I don't see any reason to believe that. I don't see any reason to believe that Tinubu is incompetent. There's no single reason. Because everything he has been doing has been calculative. Now, it may not be for our own benefit. Obviously, it is not. But it does not mean that it is an incompetent decision. In fact, it's a decision that is why he's been praised by the World Bank and IMF. The subsidy removal, the fact that it is now much more expensive to get loans from banks are not a result of incompetence. They are a result of policies that IMF and World Bank has pushed to the Nigerian people. So this whole argument that the Nigerian state is being engineered from the back by the World Bank, IMF, and other Western institutions is not a conspiracy theory, and it is a living reality. So this is the general sentiment from Pan-Africanists like myself too, that the Nigerian state is inherently corrupt, and there has to be a truly Pan-African government who would not dance to the tune of Western corporations. And usually in this category of people here, the more you are attracted to the likes of Kwame Nkrumah, let's say Patrice Lumumba, and other Pan-Africanists like Frantz Fanon, and also Nyerere from Tanzania, like all Pan-Africanists and Gaddafi, the more you are attracted to this Pan-African voice, it's also the Sahel state. And the more you distance yourself from Western institutions, this is the bright path for us that we believe that Africa should go. Now, there's also a problem with this, our own group of people here. The problem is that there's no unifying ideology. Yes, there's a Pan-Africanist ideology, and there's also a Marxist ideology. Now, naturally, there should be a unifying ideology, but there is none currently. So there's a sentiment that we should blame almost all of what is happening to us to the West, whereas there is also the Marxist who does not look at race but classism as well, whereby I particularly myself consider myself a communist or a Marxist, whereby I generally don't think it's a race issue. I don't think it's a white man, black man issue. For example, now one of the biggest associates in BlackRock, Tonyo Ogunwusi, is a Yoruba man in Nigeria. He has a very powerful vote in BlackRock in America. He's a black person, yet BlackRock is the same corporation that has put many African countries in bondage through debt. Yes, BlackRock particularly, these IMF and World Bank are just institutions that answer to BlackRock. In fact, the war in Iran, BlackRock has a stake there. So there are powerful institutions in the West that lobby the US government for these foreign policies. They decide. BlackRock's currency holds about $200 million in, I think, from Tanzania. I can't remember. I don't want to browse here now. But I think they hold about $200 million in bonds from Kenya or there about Tanzania. I've forgotten the country. African nations. So these foreign policies that force African nations to be in debt are being denied by BlackRock. But yet the Nigerian man is a major stakeholder decision in the country. So I believe more of class. I don't see you as my enemy simply because you are white or simply because you are black. I consider you my friend. No, I believe that even the poor in Europe are just as affected as we are to all of this, just as the poor in Africa, although not to the same scale. But classism has more explanation. Marxist theory is what I subscribe to and generally believe. So, but there's a division within this framework to this resistance movement, because the Pan-Africanists genuinely do not look at Marxism as any serious ideological movement, and they don't look at. I don't think they want to even ground their movement in ideology. Just Pan-African. Let us be Pan-African. Let us Africa first. But I genuinely believe that every movement has to be grounded in ideology. I don't subscribe to movement, even that consider myself a Pan-Africanist, although I doubt if people consider me a Pan-Africanist, but I consider myself a Pan-Africanist. But I still believe that we will do better if we have ideological grounding. Now, why do I insist in ideological grounding? Despite the fact that these resistance movements are disjointed, like we have the Marxists, we have the Pan-Africanists, we have the good governance people, and then we have the activists, and we have the obedient movement. Despite the fact that these movements are fragmented, there is no unifying ideology. Now, the fragmentation of this movement does not mean that a revolution cannot happen in Nigeria. In the case of Iran, per se, when the Iranian revolution happened, they were communists, which are I've forgotten their name, but they were the Tundra, or I've forgotten their name when I read the history then. They were the communists in Iran. They were even communists in Iran, even after the revolution. In fact, the reason why the communists were wiped off or imprisoned was because after the 1979 Iranian revolution, Iran had a war with Iraq where Russia was among, in fact, Russia was supplying Iraq weapons against Iran. So the poor, yes, the poor people. So PURDUE, right? I think that's the name for the communists in Iran. So the Iranian establishment then believed those communists would be working with Russia. So in fact, they were huge communists. They wanted, in fact, before the revolution, the communists really wanted that the Iranian state would be a communist state. It was not an Islamic state. It was not an Islamic religion then. I mean, it was not an Islamic revolution then. It's usually called Islamic revolution, but it was never an Islamic revolution. It was a pure revolution to just free Iran from the shackles of Western imperialism. So but during the war, there was this sentiment against the communists in Iran, even from the Iranian government. So this is where, so then we are put in prison, interrogated, and disintegrated. They were also the MEK group who wanted to establish democracy in Iran. They all fought together in the revolution. But again, these people also were persecuted as well. I won't say persecuted, but they faced trials and many people were executed within them. Especially the Iraq war shaped Iran. That was the Iraq. If not for the Iraq war, I don't think Iran would have been an Islamic republic today, because the revolution was comprised of different ideologies: socialists, communists, Marxists, whatever. But they unified their voice in the sense that they wanted to get rid of the corrupt democratic government. So Nigeria now, there is no unifying voice, and there's not even a single shred of hope that a unifying voice will emerge in Nigeria. You don't have to like me or being a Marxist or ideologically driven person and being anti-capitalist. I don't have to like you for being a Democrat as well. But you have to agree that we need a common grounding. We need a common goal, no matter our differences. Now, another reason this is affecting us why we can't form a coherent movement against the state establishment, because even within each of our different groups, like the Democrats, the communists, the Pan-Africanists, and the good governance groups, that is the activists, despite these differences in our ideology, we don't have any unifying movement within us. The people who are obedient movement cannot even decide that they are going to infiltrate Democrats. And the people who are even consider themselves Marxists like us do not even have any movement or ideological grounding that we are using to do whatever. We're just identifying ourselves, giving ourselves different labels, and sitting back at our various homes to talk about resistance. So there is a need for us to unify the resistance. Another reason why this unification is important is because whatever small progress we are making, it does not seem to be working. There are people who have, like Alex Onya on Twitter, usually post about taking students to Maths Olympiad exams, trying to use his money to organize something. But let's say This is a mistake because individual brilliance will never compensate for institutional failure. It doesn't matter how many good Nigerians that are very intelligent, it doesn't matter how many you try to help. So long as there is no intellectual culture in Nigeria, that dream that one day Nigeria is going to become an industrial powerhouse, that dream that one day we're going to be able to compete with the rest of the scientific community, that whatever vision this activist may hold for Nigeria, it is never going to work. Even as a very dark man saying he's building a school in Port Harcourt or Abuja, I think Burna Boy is even saying that whatever amount, whatever is 200 million naira, 400 million naira is going to pay. Now, you see, this is the money that naturally should be going to the resistance movement because Burna Boy genuinely believes that he wants to help Nigeria. In fact, I think he has done some giveaways in his community. He has money. He does not have the intellectual grounding. He does not have the time for even the resistance, but he has capital that he could maybe give to this movement. That is how it works. Even during the 1985 conference in Manchester that the Pan-Africanists gathered together was sponsored by a millionaire in London. But he did not contribute to whatever intellectualism was going on there. Nothing did he contribute, but he just brought us his money, lodged hotels for the Pan-Africanists, and that financial favor he did really helped the movement. So the case of Burna Boy trying to build a school, this is a very good thing. Obviously, you may not agree with Burna Boy, but this is a very good thing. Now, is it going to work or help Nigeria in any way? No. We already have schools. We're not lacking in schools. We already have the schools. We already have all these British international schools. Even if you make the school free, it's still going to be nothing because there is no intellectual culture in the country. There's no intellectual culture in the country. That money could have been going to other areas that will try to put this intellectualism in Nigeria. If you want to help Nigerians, it is not by going to a school to renovate, put chairs. That is a good thing you are doing. You are doing it good. But don't in any way think that whatever you are doing is going to help Nigerians become better academically or is going to help the brain drain in the country. No, it's not going to. Individualism is not going to help us. Likewise, whatever Alex Onya is doing in the Southeast is null and void. Null and void. It has to be, even if you are going to help a single region, that has to be by institutions. That is how other nations grew. When Russia was behind intellectually. Russia did not make much progress in terms of scientific progress. They had good progress in literature and philosophy, but scientifically speaking, no. They didn't have much. They have to personally import Euler and Bernoulli from Germany to Russia, to St. Petersburg. And they brought these beautiful minds to St. Petersburg. They built state institutions. And what happened? Within the next couple of decades, Russia became Russia became a powerhouse for mathematical research. That is where people like Kolmogorov and Lyapunov came out from. Very big names in probability theory. Because it is by institutions you change a country. You don't change it. What did Russia decide to say, okay, let us send our 4, 5 people or 20 people to France so that France can teach them how to do mathematics. Did they do that? No, they did not. Did they say, okay, let us go and renovate one school in one part of St. Petersburg so that school will have modern this and modern that, so that students will go there and learn? No. You have to create the institution in the country. Bring the library, bring the academic researchers, make it, it is by institution you build a country, not by individualism. No matter how, whatever I have studied in my life, it doesn't matter. It will not affect the intelligence of Nigeria. Neither will it change Nigeria. It doesn't matter whatever mathematical theories I have read and whatever. So long as it is just me or 2 or 3 people who are this good, nothing is going to change in the country. It has to be everybody. Everybody has to win. Everybody has to win, whether I like it or not. So despite the fact that we have activists who are going to the various states in the country to build some fine schools, trying to put 1 or 2 chairs in school library. Of course, I'm not condemning this. I am just saying that if we had a unifying ideological framework in the country, if we have this, that, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. This is our ideology. This is how we're going to change Nigeria. Even if we have differences in our political belief, but if we have an ideological framework, we will be able to make much progress. All these our celebrities, they are just buying empty houses in Banana Island, Abuja, just buying houses. Some of them just starting betting company. They don't know what to do with money. They will put this money in institutional state building. Of course, we cannot build state institution without government, without having power first. But we can do something. As a people, we can do something. The little we are doing to help ourselves is not working. Nobody lives this way. Nigeria case is too bad. It's not that we are even under control by the West. No, not just that one. Is India a free country? Is Japan a free country? Is South Korea a free country? Samsung cannot even do whatever. They have to take permission from America. They're not free countries, but the people are not in the bush under rain and sun, being tied to trees. They're not being kidnapped left and right. The brain drain at least is manageable. Nobody today will talk about we talk trash to Japan in terms of mathematics, academically speaking, despite the fact that the country is a puppet state of America. We fighting of Western imperialism is the goal, yes. But even though we are puppets to the West, we don't have to live this way. It's a big shame the way we are living in this country. And we need to unify our ideology. Whatever differences we have. Not about blocking each other on social media. Oh, you believe in Tinubu or you believe in Peter Obi, I block you. You believe in this one, I block you, I mute you, I cancel you. Not that one. Whatever ideological differences, we debate it. We iron it out, but we need to flatten the curve and mesh together as one singular voice. So that when these are celebrities, this money they are wasting buying houses, let them donate it to our movement. The money that Burna Boy used to buy that Mumuka, he will use it to put in the resistance movement. If he is sure, he cannot put it, because that's just like when they told Elon Musk, say, okay, Elon Musk, this is your plan to end world hunger. He said, okay, give me the amounts. But he knows that if you put the amount, it will not end world hunger. So if, as we have a coherent movement, even though the Burna Boy may not donate that amount he used to buy his car to that movement, but at least we will have people donating to a central movement that is building institution in Nigeria. Even with being a puppet state to America, we can live better. The North does not have to be that way. What is that one? What is that? What is that? How the North is? If you are traveling to the North, how many of you listen to me have traveled to the North? I went to the North this year. I went to Trabasa. I went to Yola, past Jalingo, by road. Because you have money, we can just enter a flight. Go there by road and see yourself. Go and pass Zaki Biam. See the checkpoint. See the way the road is lonely. Of course, the media will not report all of this. But just travel by road. Travel by road and see for yourself what is happening in the country. We cannot be living like this. No way. Nobody with common sense lives this way. It's not about being puppet state to America. It's not about that one. It's about complete change. We need to completely change the way we live. We need to completely unify our voice and push for better resistance, not just to be isolated and just be singing our individual anthem and carrying different flags with different colors and calling ourselves resistance. We don't have to unify, whether we like it or not. So that is that for today. So thank you very much for watching, and I will keep updating you much more videos. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook, follow me everywhere. I post geopolitics and mathematics and anything related to the betterment of Nigeria. So thank you.